right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get started because we do want to start on time so we can get you out of here on time. With that, I will turn it over to our external team. Scott was one of the leaders of that, and I'm going to just turn it over and let it go to you. You do have a microphone if you need one.
Okay, just let me know if you can't hear me and I'll use it, but otherwise I'll go without.
What?
Oh, funny guy. Way to loosen it up. That's why I took my tie off. So I was apologizing to people because I forgot to pack my tie. And so, sorry, I usually wear a tie during presentations. So anyway, I am Scott Bloom, lead evaluator for this visit. It was a combination AdvancED and state framework visit of your school and school district. Kate Damgard is the associate lead. And then the remaining team members had to be elsewhere by about 6 o'clock, so they had to hit the road. But all of us would like to thank you for your hospitality, for sharing and opening up for a couple days with some outsiders to come visit. And you'll see some information we're going to share with you that, you know, we really felt welcomed. It was very inviting. Love your kids. They are cool from the elementary all the way to the high school level. They are pretty honest, but there's just a climate here that's really positive and engaging, and we've enjoyed that part of the visit. So I'm going to share some required information as far as AdvancED goes, but I'm also embedding the state framework information in here as well, and all of you will receive some information at a later date. So the purpose of today is just to share out a quick overview of what we did, what we saw, some recommendations, some things that we saw as being positive, and at the end, whether or not there's accreditation attached to your schools, and then also the timeline from what happens from today forward. So as far as accreditation on the AdvancED side, it is an international protocol, so it's not just national. So if someone's doing AdvancED, the idea is that if I'm in Germany and I'm in a high school that's AdvancED, we are all working under the same requirements and expectations. It builds capacity of the institution to improve and sustain student learning, and stimulates and improves effectiveness and efficiency throughout the institution. So it's really about a learning system. As part of the accreditation process, it needs to be balanced, which means we looked at multiple pieces of information. So we analyzed an evaluation of the impact of teaching and learning, and then also leadership capacity. As far as the external review team that was walking around for the last few days, we have professional peers with diverse experience and different areas of expertise and perspectives. This group determines the institution's effectiveness in meeting the requirements of accreditation. The group that we had came from as small as Dorchester and as big as Papillion La Vista, and a little bit in between. I'm from Waverly. We had someone from Fremont, someone from Lincoln Public. So quite diverse, and all of us have experienced either people coming in from AdvancED and looking at our buildings and being part of that process, or being on external teams. What we provide is an analysis and evaluation of the school, and we give feedback and direction for future direction. What we looked at on the AdvancED side at Beatrice High School, the 5 standards of quality, which are listed there, and the high school is familiar with because they did a self-evaluation on themselves with those standards. There's 33 indicators, and that's what the numbers next to the standards list is. How many indicators are there for each standard? As you can see, teaching and assessing for learning is the heavier end because really that's why we're here and what we do, teaching and learning. But also all those other pieces play into it. So purpose and direction, governance, leadership, that's everything in a system has to be working together in order for kids to learn and for teachers to have what they need to be successful with kids. I will say there used to be 7 standards with over 100 indicators. That changed a couple years ago. So your school, Beatrice High School, is part of the 5 and the 33, but there are higher expectations with it. So the bar has been raised on that international protocol. So that's something to be aware of as we go through. The evidence we looked at, the school finished a accreditation report themselves, and that included the self-assessment on all the indicators and the standards overall, so what we thought, Beatrice High School, what we thought of ourselves. We looked at stakeholder survey data criteria. It's not the survey results. It's how did we do the survey and what did we do with it. There's like a couple pieces of information in there that you'd say, okay, how well did we do that? Same thing with the student performance data criteria. It's not about scouring through NISA results or a MAP result or ACT results. Those are all important. But for this is, how did we use it within the building? Some criteria. And you self-evaluated, and then we evaluated as well. The effective learning environment observations, which are called ELLIOTs, and that's where at the high school level, we were in classrooms for 20-minute observations. So if we stayed longer at one place than another, it's because we were doing an Elliott observation. We had stakeholder interviews, lots of formal and a few informal. So if we talk to somebody in the hallway or in the classroom, that's counted as an interview. And then other artifacts that the school sent. So the high school set up a great site, a Google site with all of your data and information that also included middle school and elementary school information as well, which is just a great way to do it, so everyone had access to it. General observations that we had when looking at Beatrice High School and the elementary and middle school as the framework visit. So these are just things that we wanted to share. It's not required to share this, it's just that here's what we kind of wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of. If you didn't already know. One, you are a caring, welcoming community that collaborates as a family to support students. The word family was used by staff, by kids, by community members, trying to best describe what goes on. It was either family or team. Those were kind of the words that were used. And I always say, it doesn't mean that everyone said we all get along all the time and we all agree with everything that happens every day. It's just that, but that's what families do. You argue, you bicker, you get along, you love. So that's what we really saw. It is a team that has experienced a great amount of change. Yet, you desire feedback on how to improve on what you've already accomplished and want to accomplish. And I think that says a lot. And our community member group pointed that out as well. They applauded the staff and the teachers and the students to say, you know what, there's been a lot of change, and yet I can say as a parent that they've kind of stayed a course. There's kind of stayed a course and stayed online. And they also mentioned that was due to the teachers, the staff, the administration, and also the strategic plan they felt was a solid foundation, which I'll mention several times as we go through the slides. There is a desire to engage and prepare all students for the next level, meaning either college, associate's degrees, career, or life. These are demonstrated through the work that's being done right now at the high school with career and technical education, with the arts, with developing the core. There's a lot more conversations going on at the high school and departments in the core area. The mentoring that goes on, wanting kids to succeed with whatever they're doing. And at the district level, the idea of preschool, getting kids in as early as possible and helping create that pathway so that when they're moving into the middle school, the high school, and so on, that we are truly looking at Beatrice as college, associate, career, life ready. Parents, a couple parents use specific terms. My kid's going to college is prepared for that. My kid's not, but they're prepared for life. I have graduates. They're living, they're successful out and about in the world. One has a degree in college, one does not, they're successful. And I think that's the ultimate goal with what we saw, was there's a strong desire to say, we want to make you as successful as possible. And on the strategic plan, really stating that, and we need to start when they're little, 3 and 4, and we need to continue with them all the way through and let them have some choices. So those things were really strong. Like I said, it's not going to be anything that's we include in that powerful practices that I'm going to share or accommodation in the state framework. It's just what you see when you're here. And we saw as peers and professionals and parents in other districts, we saw that within the district. At the high school level, as we said, we did interviews. We did 70 total interviews, 4 administrators, 2 school board members, 20 teachers, 7 support staff, 30 students, and 8 parents, and we did 26 20-minute Elliott observations. And we cut across all classrooms. So it wasn't just math, reading, science, social studies, arts, woods, and so on. So we tried to cut across all different types of courses. As far as the middle school and elementary on the state framework side, 5 schools, we did 113 interviews. 43 teachers were included in that, 4 administrators, 26 support staff, and 40 students. And we did walkthroughs, so we didn't spend 20 minutes in an Elliott observation. We did a typical walkthrough of 3 to 5 minutes, seeing what goes on in the class, what are the interactions. With the high school Elliott observation forms, this is a baseline piece of information. There's 7 criteria within there. There's like 30 different criteria that falls within this. These are just main descriptors of what a quality learning environment looks like. It's a scale of 4, 3, 2, 1. There isn't a choice on the ratings to say if it wasn't applicable to that lesson, whenever we're in there, then you have to give it a 1. So that's what's up here right now. Take it again as a baseline and look at it as, so what did these say about what strengths might be, what areas we need to improve in, but also know this is also when we talk about triangulation of data, it's one piece of information. So if we're talking equitable learning environment, where else do we have information about equitable learning environments? These are the averages from those 26 observations. And so you'll see varying scores. And I will say that what you see is the well-managed learning environment, the supportive learning environment, and the active are your higher rated areas. And number 7, digital learning environment is not about having technology, or teachers using technology, it's about kids using technology. So if that score is lower, that is typically nationally the lowest score because it's about kids doing something with technology. And technology also includes not just computers or iPads or iPods or our phones, but it also includes if I'm in woods and I'm using the different technology tools to create something, or if I'm in pottery, the tools that I use to create, those are also technological tools. Index of educational quality, what that does, Beatrice High School took every indicator and every standard and rated themselves. And so what they have is an average score for themselves. What we did and how this works is there's combinations of those standards. So the top one, the Index of Educational Quality, represents all 5 standards, all the indicators, as well as that criteria for stakeholder feedback and student performance data, all into one. The second one shows teaching and learning, which is, as it states up there, standard 3 and 5, plus student performance criteria. Leadership capacity is the next one, which is standards 1 and 2 combined with stakeholder feedback, and then resources. How to kind of view this, because it's a scaled score and you're just seeing 200 something. If I was to take what Beatrice High School said about themselves and self-rated on the higher expectations, the 248 that's listed right there in the middle, your scores would typically be from the yellow to somewhere in the orange, typically. A couple might be higher. What we saw was from the yellow moving towards the green. So we felt that you evaluated yourself very openly and very honestly, and in some cases we thought you were too harsh, but pretty much what we saw and what you said is what is. It is the reality. So that is a great starting point as well, and I think that's important whenever we're doing activities where we're trying to evaluate ourselves, is to be honest, because you can't grow if you don't have that true mark of where you're at. So that is what this slide represents. Powerful practices are not required. If you get a 4 rating on an indicator, then it's a powerful practice, or if the team feels like there was something that was done very well, it becomes a powerful practice. There was 2 4 ratings at the high school. And so those are both going to be powerful practices. The first one is that the school and community engage in a systematic, inclusive, and comprehensive process to review, revise, and communicate a school purpose for student success through the Beatrice School Strategic Plan. So what we heard over and over again is if all else fails, we know that we can tie back to this bigger picture right now. That is kind of our guiding piece. To have that done, and I told that to the admin group, to have that done is great because a lot of times that is what is being recommended or required for districts to do because without a big picture of where we're going, it's hard to go places. So having that done is excellent. And not in talking beyond the high school, that could be spoken to in community groups and at all the other buildings. So that the idea of the strategic plan being put together. The second powerful practice is leaders and staff, through a culture of frequent collaboration, deliberately and consistently align their decisions to the district's strategic plan to achieve the school's purpose and direction. Now, it doesn't mean that everything works out wonderfully and perfectly. It's just that, again, people could speak to, at least if we're trying to do something or doing something, we can talk to it in the strategic plan. And that, as I said, was articulated in interviews. It shows up in artifacts such as notes from the whole, I'm mixing up the words, what's the board meeting?
Committee of the Whole.
Committee of the Whole, which is open to the public and streamed live. So that is really, really open, and it's there. It's evident. So those are two things to really be, I think, proud of, and what we heard is that's helped sustain some things over time and it gives us some direction. The required actions have to have at least one, and if you score a 1 indicator, it has to be a required action. Beatrice High School had no 1 indicators, so we were looking at 2s, which, again, on self-evaluation, gave several 2s. So it was really where we were saying, but what are the most important 2s that both we're hearing in interviews, we're seeing in the artifacts, and will make the biggest impact for what you're doing. So it's kind of on the flip side of that strategic plan is something that can help guide us. Our required actions are things that can help feed into that plan, but give us focus at the building and at the classroom level. So the first one is that there is a need to develop and systematically implement a continuous improvement process that directly connects and reflects the Beatrice School's strategic plan. Meaning, if we're doing anything, any activity, anything at all that relates to how we want to improve, we can say we're doing it specifically because it's in our strategic plan big picture, but also our actions, what it actually looks like, reflects what we want it to look like from that strategic plan. But it's more focused. It's more focused in, and what we asked several times throughout our interviews was, how do you know, or how do you measure it? And sometimes it was just, we know, it's a gut feeling, which could be accurate, and sometimes there's perception data to support that, but it's really looking at how do we really know and how does it help us make decisions. So if I'm going to focus in on math or reading at the high school or any school, how do we know that and what are we going to do about it? So all that should be focused. So a continuous improvement process and planning is what makes that. Within that process, engaging in the process means you need to determine verifiable improvement in school effectiveness that uses data-driven decision-making. And I want to preface it that does not mean we just focus on numbers and forget about the kids. It's what is our data. It needs to be local, state, and national. And as I'll share in another slide, I'll talk about some different types of data. But those two together will help focus at each building and the high school to build into that strategic plan that everyone talks about and really help create that purpose and what we need and help prioritizing what you want to do. So for the framework schools, so shifting to Nebraska, it's not, again, the AdvancED, but what we would recommend and what we would commend, things you did well, are reflective of what we saw at the high school. So what I just shared would be absolutely reflective of the high school. And to keep in mind from what we heard at our framework visits and interviews and what we saw, is that within that process, use that to really help you focus your goals that you have, focus your collaboration time that you have. So what your conversation should be zeroed in on around should be tied to this. The strategy that you use, the common assessments that you're talking about, and so on. So really use that as a format to help focus. And then secondly, when we talk about being data-driven, keep in mind that yes, it does mean achievement data, but it also means demographic data. It also means perception data, and it also means program data, which I don't think I put up there, program data. So that's what we mean by multiple sources. And if you hear sometimes with data, triangulation of data, it means that, okay, Gallup will tell me something about hope, well-being, outstanding, use it, it's perception data, and then what else might I have that would give me some more information about that? And it could be our graduation interviews that we do. We might tie those together, but it builds a picture. Then we know why we do what we do, or we have something that helps focus us. But what I always want to make sure that's clear is we're not saying just look at a bunch of numbers or focus in on one thing, because what we heard in our interviews and through even more so in the interactions is that kids aren't numbers. So we can't just put a number to a child and go in that direction, but we focus on the learning in the kid. And I heard from several people, we had a bigger team because we had so many buildings, but there's really social, emotional, really working with that here. Really supportive of kids. So make sure you don't lose that while we're looking at improving learning, and don't lose, you have to have some numbers as evidence, but you also have things that are qualitative and you have things that are quantitative. It's okay to have both. There's nothing that says you have to pick out one reading score from a state test, and that has to be your driving force. It's what do we believe about our kids and how we can help them improve in their learning. So with the high school, based on our external review, we are going to recommend that Beatrice High School be accredited pending a review from AdvancED. We have some things to submit to them. They need to review it, and they'll make the final decision, but our recommendation is accreditation. With the state framework, Beatrice Middle School, the 4 elementary schools, same thing. Accreditation pending review by the state of Nebraska, that the Nebraska Department of Education accredits the 5 schools. So those are our recommendations that we'll be putting forward. So with that, step 1 is always the external review required by the state, required in any educational system, accreditation. So we have completed the external review. Next up, within 30 business days, the high school will get a report back. That's a pretty extensive thing. State framework, we'll have a state framework report that covers 5 schools. We're also going to work on creating an individual report. It's not going to be as extensive as AdvancED, but it will give you some feedback about what we saw and what I'm saying right now. We have about 10 to 15 days to submit everything, and then within 30 days you'll get some things back. And then accreditation happens in these cycles, and it also goes through the state. So June would be about the time where you get the final yes for what's been recommended. So on behalf of our team, like I said, our 6 AdvancED members, our 4 that came in just for some state visits, so 10 of us that were here, we really did appreciate the hospitality and support that we received. It's been great. Respect and acknowledgement of the efforts to improve that climate of we want to do better is here. And then congratulations on working forward and working towards that accreditation and what you've achieved and what you're going to achieve. Continual improvement isn't an event, it's continual. We'll always have something to work on. Things change. I think you all know very well that things change, but what is it that helps us focus? And you really do have a strategic plan, and you're going to have a continuous improvement process that will mesh together and really help guide what you do here in Beatrice at the high school and also at all of your schools. mission of AdvancED. We thank you. We appreciate your time. Thank you for those of you that stayed extra late to be here. Thank you. And we look forward to hearing about the things that you do. The nice thing about our team is we're all from Nebraska. We all experience the same types of things. So I look forward to watching Beatrice move forward, try some different things. But do know that when I came down, awesome. Beatrice is a great place. Great community, great schools, great people. So to have that foundation to start from, I think you all know, is pretty special. So congratulations, and look forward to hearing from you in the future and seeing your progress.